How do you respond to arguments that your app undermines the need for documentation at the workplace and also could make this worse, these problems worse, as in the case of Uber?
Well, thanks for having me. I don't know that we have a starring role. I mean, this is a big stage, but you know, at Wickr we've been creating since 2012 a way to communicate securely and privately, and now we're bringing it into the enterprise. So this isn't about hiding anything. This is about the responsible use and deployment and management of encryption in the enterprise. So we feel very comfortable about this phase of our company, and you know, open conversation is a really important part of this process.
Why do you even need private communications at work?
Why? Well, let's think about this. So I'm a security geek, and we would always have things that, I'm going to get a little too geeky here for you, but SSH keys or passwords that needed extra protection, and that translates. Journalists have sources, and M&A teams have lists of acquisition targets, and politicians have opposition research. I mean, you can go down the list where we've had out-of-band communications always, and now, you know, we have simple, easy to deploy tools in the enterprise, and really to manage them. So there's no need to ever be running afoul of any legal or regulatory requirement. It's a flexible tool that can be used responsibly.
Firms seem to be being hit from all sides right now. Uber has been hacked from the outside. We heard that they paid off the hackers to erase the data that was stolen. Right. We also know that Waymo is alleging that their proprietary data was stolen by an ex-employee. So how can firms guard themselves from being hit from all sides?
So I think to answer that question, it's important to talk a little bit about what Wickr does. And ultimately what we do is we use cryptography, we use math to secure data, and we eliminate a server from the communication of that data. This is a new way to communicate and a new way to protect communications. And so these products have been brought into the enterprise via the App Store or via personal devices. And void of stomping out the use of personal devices, organizations have to have a point of view and take control over the use of these encrypted tools. And so that's what we're doing. This is the difference that Wickr does, is we've created a way to manage it and deploy it in concert with your requirements. So rather than letting it seek into the environment, you have to take a point of view and have a proactive stance around how encryption is used.
Talking about servers, we're still waiting for the Jacobs letter from an ex-Uber employee that accuses Uber of having secret servers and also a team dedicated to steal trade secrets. Now that letter is going to be released tomorrow. How problematic could this be for the company?
I still think it's the same story here. Again, math is agnostic. This is the way that we will be. You know, just as we can assume that there will be autonomous vehicles, and that's how we're going to transport ourselves, there is going to be serverless communications for data transport. So this is the future. This isn't about it being problematic for Wickr. This is raising awareness and making sure that we're having a productive conversation about how to use the most powerful encryption to protect data and use it responsibly. The fact is, for 20 years, I've been working with companies to try and play defense against the North Koreans, the Chinese, and let's maybe assume there's an Eastern European country that likes to influence elections. And it's been a losing battle because what we do is we use service providers that have to get access to our data. And anytime we create a path to our data, we have to understand that the bad guys are going to use that same path. With Wickr and with the technology we use, that path isn't there. Wickr will never ever have access to the data. We can't monetize it. It's a different business model, and it's the only business model that really will secure your data.
So Uber has already been hit. Waymo claims that it's been hit by an ex-employee.
Sure.
What's the first steps that these companies should take once they realize they've been compromised?
Well, if there's a security incident, usually a mature organization will have an incident response plan. Part of that is to go out of band and make sure that the attackers are not listening in or seeing the data that you have. But on a more strategic level, it goes back to what I was just saying. We've been trying to secure our data by hiring humans to manage and configure products that have been, just unsuccessful in protecting our most sensitive data. The key is to rely on math, and the key is to have mathematically certain processes and tools that eliminate that data as a potential attack surface. That is, data minimization is a huge part of a corporate cyber strategy that just isn't deployed enough yet.
And especially when it comes to smaller, mid-sized businesses, what challenges do they face in order to be protected?
Well, I think the biggest, it goes back to the humans. There's a colossal shortage of technical talent that can be deployed to protect sensitive data. To be totally honest, a lot of them live and work here for companies like Uber and Google and Facebook. So a mid-sized business, if their strategy is to try and find somebody who's world-class at protecting data, then I think that's a losing battle. You need to find really simple to deploy, and relying on math rather than human configurations is a really comfortable thing for smaller businesses. So that's why we see a lot of small businesses using our tool.
Does the government get involved here in helping the private sector with these challenges?
Well, we have a really, really healthy and active relationship with the government at all levels. Especially when it comes in the tail end of the 2016 elections. We've been working with the campaign committees and doing everything we can to make sure that we understand their point of view and give them the ability to deploy tools that keep information away from foreign entities and anyone who might want to disrupt democracy. So we've been really leaning in to try and find ways to protect our government. And the government understands strong encryption. This has been a big, important part of how we've protected our most sensitive data for years, for decades.
Does this mean that, from everything that you've said, that in the future we'll see these emails or data stored by companies just being stored for a shorter period of time than it was customary before?
Well, we're already seeing that. A real in vogue process after the elections is to have 30-day retention, to encrypt email and have 30-day retention periods. It's a very similar data minimization construct. But I think a more interesting point when you say in the future and you use the word email, I have 15-year-old daughters who don't even know what email is. I think the most important thing is that this is our computing device going forward, and people use their thumbs like it's their voice. And so it's protecting messaging and collaboration applications that I think is critical for us going forward.